Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you won't be able to see me because I have these questions. So last time, in our prayer, in the heartfulness prayer, correct? We have two keywords. One is the master and one is the God, correct? Right.
Correct.
So is it that, when we say master, because to us, God is just a principle, right? And
Correct.
our approach to God is to the master.
Correct.
But in the prayer, then we say master and then the God, correct? In the end, we say the God, correct? So
Correct.
is it basically master is more like, the Purusha, which is the, the
Higher.
capital S self within me, correct?
Right.
And then when I refer to God, it is the all-pervasive, Brahman. Is that what it is?
So you are missing the second, third term, power, God
Okay.
and power.
Yes.
So the master equals to God plus power.
Okay.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
it is only the master
Uh-huh.
as God, omniscient, omnipresent God,
Mm-hmm.
then that essence, that godly essence, you cannot even call it entity here because it is beyond existential context.
The master.
The master, and the
Mm-hmm.
God I'm talking about.
Okay. God. Okay.
So that God has no knowledge of you and your goal.
That is true.
So then it is no help.
Mm-hmm.
But here the master is a God plus power,
Mm-hmm.
means it is conscious as well as godly essence within it,
Correct.
so that it understands your goal
Mm-hmm.
because it understands your situation. It
Mm-hmm.
can, and of course here the master is again your own inner essence
Mm-hmm.
plus the master as an existential entity, the guru.
Mm-hmm.
So here the master is kind of two-edged. One is the capital self. That
Mm-hmm.
capital self is nothing but God and power,
Okay.
Purusha and Prakriti,
Mm-hmm.
plus the master as an existence who has this godly essence completely merged into it. And because of that godly presence, our goal is possible. So that's why Babuji clearly clarified that the living master is required in our existence because even the master as Babuji cannot understand our essence, our requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it is on one side the master is also a principle, on another side the master is also an existence, on the third side the capacity the which who got the power to lift us up.
Yeah,
So
but why do we need to invoke God then? If master is, Purusha, Prakriti plus the power.
yeah, so that's why we start with the master.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also acknowledging that that master is also God and power.
So it's the same entity, but in expanded form, we can say.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's why here, I mean, his existence itself is giving the idea of the push towards the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And as we develop the capacity to absorb his essence,
Mm-hmm.
progress. Sometimes that progress is also given by the master, but we cannot sustain it unless we develop that character and capacity like we discussed last time.
Okay.
So it's all put together. So that's why the prayer has many facets. One we discussed about nullifying all our wishes so that
Correct.
we can totally turn towards this higher essence.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is this God and power, which is there because this power is the capacity. God is God, and Master is the one who can understand our state of existence, our situation, our goals, and our requirements.
So this is one of the reasons that we always pray to the the current master,
Correct. We are
because that's the
praying
only
to the,
connection we have. Huh?
yeah, that's the only connection we have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. All right.
Yeah,
So the other one I had, as a follow-up question. Remember last time we discussed about, observer and the observed, correct?
correct.
So what happens is, you start with the observer and, the divine presence is the observed, correct? At
Right.
least the thought. Correct? What is it that basically blanks it out? What happens?
Blanks it out in the sense.
That you lose consciousness. The observer and the observed collapse. What is that phenomenon?
So, I mean, look at it like this. It's a very
Mhm.
interesting way of seeing things, right?
Mhm.
Um, Suppose uh, if I am observing something, a tree, for example,
Mhm.
I'm observing a tree. So now the tree is in the awareness of the tree is in my consciousness, reflected in my consciousness.
Correct.
It is not only that I am the observer of the tree, in certain way, I'm connecting to the tree at certain level.
Mhm.
Then when that connection happens, the tree, which is a mundane thing, even you don't see as a fully conscious being, the tree is also observing you. So
In
in
some
even
sense. In some
in
sense.
some
Yes.
sense, even in a very mundane situation, also the observer has become is observed now is observed.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
Yes.
So now a tree is observing me. So it is so my in its whatever its mundane conscious state, we are also reflecting in tree's consciousness.
Mhm.
Now, when the mind becomes an observer of my consciousness itself, then the consciousness becomes the observer of now the both the conscious states are merged. So whatever
Yeah.
the conscious state mind has and the conscious state, it's very difficult to explain, but imagine it like that.
Mm.
Now the observer becomes the observed, or the eye is seeing the eye itself. So
Yeah,
that's
but
the phenomena, that transformation, that switch
mhm.
happens only through a meditation aided with transmission. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Now the consciousness becomes the observer of the soul, and soul becomes the observer of the consciousness. Even
Mhm.
there also the switch happens. That's why
Mm.
that whole experience is coming back to you as a reflection when you come out of the deep state of meditation. So here the consciousness is never absent. Conscious can never become absent.
Correct.
The mind can become absent because mind is a mere tool. It is not it has nothing to do with the essence. Mind is associated only with the Jivatma,
Mhm.
the embodied soul. So that's why it becomes a mere tool. That's why when a person dies, the consciousness, the soul, embodied soul, and its impressions are the only ones carried to the next life. The mind is gone. Mind again manifests in the next life.
Mind is in this case, just to clarify, mind means mostly the memories, not the emotions.
Mind is only an instrument of awareness
So the emotions are basically settled down, the vrittis we call it, on
on
the
the
consciousness
consciousness,
itself.
yeah, itself.
Correct.
That's why the samskaras or the impressions or the karma is carried over.
Mhm. So, uh, so the question is, so if the vrittis are basically, you know, uh, get settled down on the consciousness, correct?
Yeah,
Then, if we, so that means the consciousness we have, is definitely not pure. And is that the reason that our reality gets distorted?
So, how much ever the consciousness is pure or impure,
Mhm.
the glimpse of reality is always there.
Yes.
But because of my engagement with the external world, outward
Mhm.
outlook,
Mhm.
that's when the reality is there, but it is not there. I mean, it is eluded.
You just get a little glimpse and then you're done.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why, that's why the meditation is to disconnect with this engagement with the world.
Mhm.
But that
For that
disconnection
period of time,
for
and
that
then
period of
continue
time.
in that what do you
Yeah,
call the meditative mode.
correct. So the pure and impure, how do you even like decide, right? I mean, impure means something got adulterated, something got mixed into it.
Mhm.
But at what level?
Mhm.
Now the consciousness is infinite. That means unless every soul is devoid of impressions, the consciousness cannot be pure. Even it's just be making my impressions go away doesn't mean the consciousness has become pure.
Then probably you
Yeah.
can't even
It's
exist.
like the entire ocean's water is salty. So
Yeah.
then it's a whole body, right? It's a whole
Okay.
entity. So that's why this whole purity concept somehow, it's a very perceived comparative notion than real purity.
Yeah, we should not actually put the label purity. We should say the impressions are there. That's it.
Impressions are there and they're gone as much as you clean them.
Mhm.
Your consciousness is presented to you without distortion. That's all how we have to say. This purity again creates lot of confusion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think the best is not label it. Just say
Right.
there are impressions there, vrittis are there.
Correct.
Mhm. Okay, all right, yeah. So, Master talks about this 360 degrees awareness, correct?
Correct.
Uh, what does it really mean in simple terms?
It's very simple. So it's it's think of it like a comparison between the meditative state versus sleep state.
Mhm.
In sleep state, the awareness is there but not there. Okay, means that awareness comes to you after you come out of sleep.
Sleep, yes.
But in meditation, in spite of the mind is absent, the awareness is there, means the knowing is there. Uh,
During during deep meditation,
during deep meditation, also knowing is there.
but not.
Because that knowing is there, now the
Mhm.
mind is absent.
Correct.
So, mind is a very focused awareness.
Yeah,
Mind,
but unless
so,
all our what do you call recognition is through the mind.
yeah, because it's focused, you can only know one thing at a time.
Yeah.
It's a focused, pointed awareness, you can call it. If I am looking at a TV, I become aware of the TV.
Uh-huh.
Wherever the your drishti,
Hmm.
your attention is there, that is what you become aware of. You think about your family, you are become aware of your family.
Hmm.
You think about your work, that becomes your awareness.
Correct.
So it's a more of a pointed thing. The mind awareness is a pointed thing.
Correct.
When the
But
mind becomes absent, but that active aware state is always there in meditation,
mhm.
so then it becomes a complete awareness.
Correct. That I got.
So
But
that complete awareness is basically, if you want to put it mathematically,
360
the whole
degrees.
circle. So the 360 degrees.
No, no,
It's
that
not
is okay. But
exactly. uh,
what does it mean in, say, living on a day-to-day basis? Say, what does it do?
what does it do? That 360-degree awareness. See, here it is like this. There is no exercise available, mental exercise or whatever you call it, is not available for the expansion of consciousness. So when you talk about expansion of consciousness, this consciousness beyond our subtle body, the consciousness is there,
Mhm.
Suppose, you drop a stone in a silent pond.
Mm-hmm.
The ripples slowly expand all the way through the
Mm-hmm.
pond, right?
Yeah.
But if that vibration is not carried out, there is no expansion. So, in a focused mind, that expansion is not possible. In a focused awareness,
Mm-hmm.
that expansion is not possible. So, when that focused awareness is there, now we are complete, then it expands. So, that expansion is possible. That it's not the result of the 360-degree awareness. 360-degree awareness is just a way of saying it, expression.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, in this, when the I is seeing the I, or the soul itself, the capital self,
Mm-hmm.
the only way it can absorb that capital self is by expanding itself, because that is omniscient, infinite. So you need certain expansion to even to kind of perceive it. It's like that example is right. When an ant is walking and an elephant, it can never know it is elephant, because the ant's purview is very small.
Mm-hmm.
Elephant is the huge body, correct? But
Mm-hmm.
if somehow ant can escape its contact with that elephant and can see the bigger view of the elephant, it cannot see it by just staying on the elephant. It has to go above the elephant. So that is what the this expansion does. It somehow gives us the essence of that soul, Paramatman, Brahman, you can call it, whatever you want to.
So let me summarize it. So having this 360-degree awareness, right?
Mhm.
Does it mean a certain experience when at least you're in deep meditation?
So again, experience is the lower thing.
Okay.
The absorption of the essence, you cannot put it as an experience. So absorption of the essence, you have that feeling
Correct.
which you carried backwards in your after your meditation is done.
No,
But
no, that.
that feeling is
Mhm.
also because of the expansion of consciousness. But as our consciousness is expanding, that feeling is refined.
No, that is correct. So the question is, in leading life, right? What does this do? Say, you say, okay, this person had a 360-degree, awareness, right? How does he lead his life different from, say, yours or mine?
So this is something called, as this feeling of the real
Mhm.
is becoming more and more imprinted, then we kind of know the ephemeral nature of this life. So this is ephemeral nature of life, and that is there is some certain permanency over there. Babaji uses this word, loves this word, permanency.
Yeah, I've heard this. Yes.
So this permanency versus ephemeral, that discernment, that viveka
Hmm.
buddhi develops. When this
Yeah.
ephemeral versus the permanency, that discernment when it develops, so our what should I say, our um, attachment, or eagerness in mundane things drops.
Got it.
So we take life as it comes.
Mhm.
So the because now the importance is lost. Suppose if I hear somebody so and so's mother died, grandfather died, somebody died, we hear that as a news.
Mhm.
We cannot get into that person's feelings of that death.
Mhm.
It's somebody, right?
Mhm.
It's not me.
Mhm.
So how do I receive that news? How do I receive the other people's troubles or happiness? Now I receive my troubles and happiness as a third person. You see the difference of your
So it's
reality to the
yeah.
life.
So it's more like being detached.
You are detached, but it's not that you are running away, you are escaping.
Correct.
So this
Yes.
detachment is not an escapistic attitude.
So it's more like a witness.
You become more like a witness to the life also. You become, so the
Correct.
same witness attitude to the inner self continues to the
To
life
the
also,
outer. Got it.
outer self. Yeah, witness is the right word to use there. So
Yeah.
I become
Okay.
a mere witness when the more and more discernment, the more and more Viveka Buddhi develops,
Hmm.
the more and more witness I become.
Got it. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So, when we in heartfulness, when we talk about, we talk about the physical body, we talk about the causal body, and all the effort that we put is basically on the subtle, correct?
yeah,
And subtle, we say, is the mind, the intellect, and the ego. And then we separately classify the consciousness. Okay.
correct. Hmm.
Now, the the mind, the ego, the intelligence, right?
Hmm.
If we take our, the anatomy, right? There are different regions which are associated with the mind, ego, and the intelligence.
Right.
Correct? Now, consciousness is not attached to any particular region,
No,
unless I misread it. Correct?
no.
So,
Consciousness is all pervading.
correct. So, is the refinement of the mind, the ego, and intelligence basically leading to the expansion of consciousness?
Yeah. So this is, I mean, again, we are whenever we are talking about expansion, we are kind of looking at it in a very physical
Correct.
terms,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
So just like I was giving this example of the pond, right? The vibration
Hmm.
is expanding across the pond.
Correct.
The vibration is carried over the water.
Hmm.
If you take that water as the consciousness,
Hmm.
vibration as my state,
Hmm.
it is expanding across the consciousness, across the pond.
Correct. Across
Yeah,
the
the
whole body.
pond is not changing.
Yeah.
The pond is constant here.
Hmm.
So similarly, the consciousness is constant.
Hmm.
So whenever we're talking about expansion of consciousness, it's our state, our vibratory state is expanding.
The refinement. It's not expanding, it's maybe getting
Defining
less.
expanding also you can call it
Okay.
across the infinite consciousness,
Okay.
right? So that's why, um, so then my existential, like the subtle body,
Hmm.
see, right now my subtle body is limited to my physical,
Senses.
not senses, anatomy.
Okay.
It's aligned with my physical anatomy. So as it expands, then I let go my bodily consciousness. That means I've gone crossed the pind.
Hmm.
Then I'm expanding. So when you talk about Brahmand means the entire infinite existence. That's what the Brahmand means.
So then, can't we say that when we say expansion of consciousness, correct?
Hmm.
It is moving from,
So now look at it this way. I mean, just to give you a conceptually understand this.
uh-huh,
Suppose for a highly evolved saint like a master,
uh-huh,
his conscious body is the entire cosmos,
uh-huh,
entire cosmos. That is the level of expansion if I have to kind of compare it in a physical terms.
uh-huh.
So for a god's, what is the subtle body of the god? The
Whole
entire
universe.
existence. Entire existence inside
Yeah,
cosmos. What is the
correct.
physical body of the god? If you kind of
Same.
it's the same. So in that is like, so now your
Mm.
vibratory state has covered the entire available consciousness.
Got it.
So think of in those terms like an expansion.
Yeah. Okay.
So that means
So,
that consciousness is there, but my vibratory state is covering all that conscious
okay.
state.
Yeah. So, another, question is that, Babuji talks about freedom from freedom, right?
Yeah.
All the time. What does it really mean? Freedom from, first, what is freedom? Then freedom from which freedom?
See, the thing is now from an existential context, when I
Uh-huh.
look at the God,
Correct.
now I'm projecting all these manifestations of the God. That's why, if you talk about Hinduism, there are 16 million gods or something like that, people say. Now, there is
Uh-huh.
another argument that it is not exactly 16 million, things like that. But what I'm trying to say is now you have many choices, many projections over there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I come in contact with this essence as being the one,
Mm-hmm.
then when I say Master God, Chariji, Babuji, Vivekananda, Allah, Jesus, Krishna, Vishnu, Hanuman, now we have so many paraphernalia of things,
Mm-hmm.
all merge into one essence. Now
Correct.
I'm only seeing the essence.
Mm-hmm.
When I see the essence, when my devotion to that essence, yesterday we were reading in spiritual anatomy, devotion is the loyalty to that state, the goal.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Then my goal becomes only one.
So that is
I
the
escape this paraphernalia of things.
so that is freedom from the freedom, because then the master drops, all the physical entity drops, and you're
Everything.
basically tied to the essence, which
Yeah.
is basically the freedom
Correct.
from freedom.
So in the paraphernalia of things, I have freedom to choose.
Mhm.
Now there is no freedom to choose anything because it's only one.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
So
that
that is
makes
the real
sense.
state of freedom from freedom.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Shrikant, when we talk about the points, right? Say,
Mhm.
the basic 5 points. We talk about the 5 elements, and at each point, there's one element which is predominant.
Yeah.
But those elements, we talk of fire, water point, and other points, right? Or other elements.
Mhm.
But those essentially are not physical. They are basically maybe different states of consciousness.
Correct.
But in the traditional, the Sanatan Dharma, right? They also talk of 5 elements
Panchabhuta.
and Panchabhuta, correct. So obviously, when they talk of Panchabhuta, is it the physical? And then what is the correlation between the Panchabhutas, which we talk in these, fire, water, earth, and other things, and the states of consciousness
Yeah.
uh, at these different 5 points we have.
In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gave a small hint towards it. Only
Okay,
in
what's
one verse, I think.
mm-hmm.
It's a primordial, manifested state of consciousness. It's a understand that only all the manifestation is through consciousness. It's a primordial state of manifestation of the consciousness, earth being the grosser, to the ether being the subtler. Okay. So the ether is also comparably with the space.
Mm-hmm.
Space being the subtler, earth being the grosser.
Correct.
Conscious. So when all these conscious states, 5 conscious states come together, manifested conscious states, you can call them.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just call the conscious state, it's a manifested state. In still not physical, but there is a grosser vibration to one and the subtler vibration to another.
Mm-hmm.
5 various levels mixed together at various levels creates a physical form, physical entity. Okay. So at each of these points which are discovered on a spiritual journey, even though it is we kind of located along with the spiritual anatomy, sorry, in the physical anatomy, it's actually a spiritual anatomy, it means is the anatomy of the subtle body. And these See, for example, in the traditional chakras,
Uh-huh.
Muladhara chakra, the root chakra, is known as the earth point.
Correct.
And eventually, gradually, they go all the way to the in subtler state, the ether.
Uh-huh.
But the way our teachers have discovered, they started from the first point as the earth, where all the grossness, you can call it, the energy is descending from the top to this earth point.
Mhm.
And from there, the energy is getting disseminated into the entire physical system through nadis. And if you go into the Nadi Shastra again, that is big. There are 76,000 main nadis, and there are sub nadis, and it goes into millions.
Okay.
So, and again, in that 32 are the main nadis. Then again, there are three nadis. I mean, I can show you the whole thing when we have time.
Mhm.
But bottom line is, because we are not touching the root chakra, Mooladhara chakra, the earth point at a, even if you see the first point to the compared to the Mooladhara is much grosser state compared to the first point.
In our
That is
in
the
heartfulness.
grossest point which is discovered as the first point where all the worldly interactions are happening. So that became the earth point. But interestingly, the subtler point should be the last point, but the space became the second point because that's where the glimpse of the highest begins. That is why it has become the Atma Chakra, the spiritual heart versus the physical heart. Okay. So then that kind of took the even the subtler point predominantly because now our pursue towards the subtle is beginning.
After the second point.
Yeah, after the second point. So that became the second point. Like that. But now as you going to the higher points, the only the space became predominant beyond seven. Even though we're still donating with all the, the same five chakras, but the highest is always space because it's the more subtler. And these points, the the division, when you say earth point, earth being the predominant, in the Vedanta Sara itself, it is explained. I think it's 100 verse in the Vedanta Sara. It is explained that when the Panchabhutas, the predominant point, takes the half of the rest, means in 5 points, if you draw a circle just for a understanding, the half of the circle goes to the predominant point. That means earth means it would predominantly 50% is earth. And rest of the half divided among the 4 points, four elements.
In the
That's
weightage
how,
wise.
yeah. That's how Vedanta Sara describes. It is
Mm.
there, the scriptures. And incidentally, Babaji also has discovered something similar. And that's why we show all the 5 points in each element. At each point, we show all the five elements, right?
To just show the predominance of one versus the other.
Correct. So it's
So
it's a science by itself. Now we are now talking about spiritual science.
yeah, yeah. So when we, in the traditional, Sanatan Dharma, when they say the five elements, correct? Because that is when the stair happened. That is what got formed, and then slowly it descended down.
Correct. Yeah, different vibratory states, grosser to the subtle. These are, think of it like manifested conscious states.
These are not physical things when we say Panchabhuta.
It's almost at the energy level,
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
at the state of energy, but it is still, energy is also manifested state only. All energy is manifested state. So energy to the matter, matter to the energy.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. I got more, but I don't want to take too much of your time today.
That's right.
So
I'll
we'll do in
stop
the next
because
session.